Alrighty, you ready to roll? Looks like it. All right, good morning, everyone. It is June the 22nd. It is 8:30, and I will bring the meeting to order. We have pre-circulated the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions to that agenda? Yes, Councillor King.
I'd like to add a discussion regarding the Capstone Kneehill Solar.
All right, we'll put that as 8.4, Capstone. Is there any other additions or deletions? Yes, Councillor Penner.
Under Council and Committee reports, just a briefing on our Drumheller solid waste meeting.
All righty, 10.2, Drumheller solid waste. Are there any other additions or deletions? Councillor King.
I just have a brief committee report on Trochu housing.
Okay, 10.3, Trochu housing. Is there anything else? Councillor Christie.
I'll move the agenda as amended.
All righty, we have a motion to approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. We've pre-circulated the regular council meeting minutes of June the 8th. Are there any errors or omissions? Councillor King.
My motion to approve the June 8th regular council meeting minutes as presented.
Okay, motion to approve the minutes as presented. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Our first agenda item under transportation, 4.1. Welcome, Mr. Buchert. And anytime you're ready.
Morning, Mr. Reeve and members of council. 4.1, this is for bridge file 2432. On the recommended motion, there's actually a clerical error. It should be 25-1, not 25-4. So a little background on this. 2432 was reconstructed back in March of 2020 for a cost of $654,740.38. At the time, the contractor had felt that the depth of the girder sitting lower into the stream bed would be sufficient. After the last spring melt and other weather activities relating to the water flow, I had questioned if the girder sitting lower in the stream would be effective or not up against the girders, so the top of the water level. So the contractor is willing at no cost to the municipality to come back and raise that structure an additional 2 feet. Right now, all our other structures, they get hydrology done on them. This one had it too. They thought it would be sufficient. We're saying, yeah, I don't think it is sufficient. So that's why they're willing to come back and raise it. At the same time they're raising it, I asked the question about maybe adding one more girder. So the other bridges we've done after this is one of the very first bridges we did, after we've added 9 girders instead of 8. So we're looking at adding an extra girder to the south side. It has the capacity right now to do that with the caps that were initially put on. That cost of purchasing that extra girder is $40,000. The cost of the additional girder would come from the bridge reserve. Again, they would do that at no cost other than the cost of what the girder is going to cost to get it from Black Falls to here. So I guess our recommended motion was the council would authorize an additional girder for bridge file 2432, located on 33-4 east of should be Range Road 25-1, with the additional cost of $40,000 being funded from the bridge reserve. Okay,
That's not a sheet pile bridge.
It is, yeah. It was the very first sheet pile bridge that we constructed. So
okay.
If anybody knows the area, it's between Art Pryor's and Earl Hasties. So that one there, it'll take us probably about 2 to 3 days to put the dirt back in to gain that elevation. which we've done to the other ones over the last year, so.
So ultimately, it'll turn it from a low-level crossing into a,
Yeah, you won't have that pressure onto the girder itself through the stream beds, so.
all right. Is there any questions for Mr. Buchert from council? Councilor Christie?
Okay, the half mile east of that is, at times goes underwater. Is there any long-term bringing that grade up to that level of the bridge? I mean, the bridge will now be higher than the grade, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah.
But do we need to bring the grade up to the half mile east or not?
So through the Reeve, Councilor Christie, we've never had it come over the road. You know, it does fill that ditch, and that's, you know.
Yeah, it comes over the road though, but like,
I haven't seen
not
it.
a quarter of a mile east of
Yeah.
that, but then once it goes over, it's for 100 yards.
Okay.
But I've only seen it 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, like I haven't seen it in a long time to come over the road itself by, say, by Art's driveway there. Goes up about as far as that one and then comes back. The property quarter section to the north there, that creek winds in there and it, you know, it overflows the banks in there and then floods over. So I don't know, I mean, besides raising the whole grade, but you're gonna have to find a bunch of fill to fill that. Currently, right now,
I've only seen it a couple of times.
yeah,
that
we're
I
not
remember.
looking at doing that. Hopefully, raising this will relieve some of that pressure from a backflow issue, I guess, maybe, that pushes back onto that quarter to the north.
Yeah, and like 2 years ago, it got kind of halfway up the girders, but not any higher than that.
Yeah.
You could definitely see the water disturbance because it hit the girders. It was definitely moving water differently than it would.
Yeah, and then on the old structure too, I mean, remember that had piers in the stream bed, so in those piers, they were also strutted, so those struts would be between those piers. So they used to catch a lot of debris and hold back. There used to be a fence along there to catch grass.
For sure, it's got more capacity now, but there's
Yeah.
still, Mother Nature's still got capacity.
Yeah, and when the dam needs to be opened, I mean, that's not far away from the Bigelow Dam, so when they open the dam to relieve that pressure on it, it puts pressure on all the other infrastructure along there, so.
Well, just hope the skies open up and we get some rain. So what's council's wishes with this 4.1 bridge file? Councilor, or Deputy Reeve McGee, sorry.
I'd like to make the motion that council authorizes additional girder to BF 2432 located on 33-4 east of Range Road 25-1. Is that correct, Brad? 1?
Correct, yeah.
With additional cost of $40,000 being funded by the Bridge Reserve.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a motion before us as it appears on screen. I'm not going to read it. Is there any discussion to that motion? Seeing as not, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. 4.2, Mr. Buchert.
4.2, so this is the Hesketh Bridge. So we did go to tender on this a few months ago. Tender was awarded to Formula Contracting. What the way the tender process works is we ask for all their engineering and everything. We take the pile depths of what we usually see within the area, which is around 12 meters. And then anything over and above that that will be required, we always say we'll add it on as an extra work order. So with the geotech that was done by Formula, they identified that the mudstone layer, which will be a yielding layer, is not very deep. So this structure is going to need piers. So the pier height and to what the pier height or the pier depth would be into the mudstone is not enough. So they're gonna have to drill in the stream bed to get through the mudstone, and then they can set their pilings in. So with that, that's looking like it's gonna cost about an extra $100,000. Right now, the budget was 1.3 million. That's basically what they had come in at on their tender, and they were looking, you know, right around $98,000 additionally for the extra depths of those piles and the drilling of the piles. So that's 14 piles within the stream bed that'll need to be drilled for that cost, so.
I was gonna piss off the fish.
Yeah. So,
There's not going to be a delay because of this?
no, so this replacement structure is supposed to be happening after the fish window, which is July 15th. So we're trying to get it done prior to harvest, so nobody has to use the low-level creek crossing. And it's going to be about a month and a half roughly to get this one done. What else? This is also funded through the municipal stimulus program. So we did that grant of $594,454. So the basically $4 million is also, this 594 goes against that grant, so. So I guess we're looking for a recommended motion that they authorize the additional $100,000 for the Hesketh Bridge replacement to cover those additional costs that are required to be funded through the bridge reserve again. And they're currently, the bridge reserve is sitting at $1,074,000, would be $1,034,000. Now that we just authorized $40,000 from the other one. So that'll be down just below, $900,000 in the bridge reserve, so.
Okay, it's council's wish. Councillor Keever?
I can't help you with any more piling material.
Councillor King?
I guess it's unfortunate that it's going to cost additional money. However, that's the world in which we live. So I will make the motion that council authorize an additional $100,000 for the Hesketh Bridge replacement to cover the additional costs that are required for the replacement of bridge file 8856 to be funded from the bridge reserve.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion before us to add an additional $100,000 to the Hesketh Bridge coming out of bridge reserves. Is there any discussion to that motion? Seeing not, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thanks, Brad.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Mr. Reeve, I just have a question for Brad, while you're here. There's quite a few new stop signs on railway crossings. And one in particular that a lot of ratepayers have talked to me about is the one in Swalwell. I'm just wondering who put them up or who gave permission, like being a railway, and there's no new sign saying there's a new stop sign or whatever. It's caught a lot of people off guard. If I could get some more information.
Okay. Yeah, and I think I updated council on the council updates that was happening. So what's happens, and there's Transport Canada right now. They're in charge of looking at the safe stopping distance at all crossings. They also look at the condition of crossings, and they instruct CN on what to do there. So Transport Canada right now has a engineer that goes around and inspects every crossing. And they've increased their safe stopping distance, the SSD, from previous years. So a lot of it is if you can't see, such as tree lines, if there's adjacent properties, private property, they want us, the municipality would incur that cost of removing those trees on private property, which probably is unlikely going to happen, that people are going to want their trees cut down. So the other solution was for CN to install stop signs. So we supply CN with the stop sign, they install it, we put stop ahead signs. So that crossing there's stop ahead signs at the rail crossing signs on the highways. So if you look at the rail crossing sign, there should be a stop ahead. We did put those the same day that CN was there and did those ones, so. Unless someone's stolen, but they were done the exact same day. I just confirmed that with the sign employee that they did put those up, so.
Okay, I will have to look closer. I'll get the residents to.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. However, again, Transport Canada and CN rule on those crossings. They belong to them, so.
Well, and it is great, in, say, with the, right there at the hamlet, but what our residents having trouble is when you, say you're heading west into Swalwell, it's great that there's stop signs because sometimes you don't realize there's a train there being so dark, but the stop sign is right at the tracks. It's not like 12 feet back or 20 feet back or whatever. It's right there.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's where CN has chosen to put those stop signs is right at the crossing marker. Again, that's up to them. They own 16 feet on either side of that right of way, that track. That's supposedly theirs, although they get to tell municipalities, whether you're urban or rural, that you look after it. We have the crossing, but it's your job to look after it, your job to gravel it, your job to do everything else, so.
Sounds like bridges.
Yeah, they have a lot of power, CN, so.
Have we got the power to turn those stop signs like 90 degrees?
Yeah, it's important. We have other crossings out there that are skewed also, like a skewed track, where you come up to it and the stop sign's right at the crossing, but most guys have learned to stop back so you can kind of see the other side of the track. Because in a pickup truck or a car, you can see. Well, you're in a large grain truck, it is hard to see some of those back, so you got to be looking ahead, so. And, you know, if there was arms put up, like what there is on the 583, those costs would be all bared by the municipality, not by CN.
And it's unfortunate that it has to be on both sides, right? Because of what
Yeah.
you were just talking about, because sometimes it is just from the one direction. The other direction, no problem, especially the ones going uphill. You know, they can see no problem both directions, but because there's a stop sign on the other side, which is needed.
Yeah.
Because of visibility. But the worst, and it's not ours, the track is 575.
Yeah.
That is terrible,
Yeah, 575 is a bad one, yeah.
bad, yeah.
And, you know, Transport Canada has been out. I mean, he's been good. CN's, you know, expressed some of their concerns about their requests of fixing some of these crossings. The 30O also got a stop sign just south of Swalwell. That one there got a stop sign put up because of the north property that has a bunch of trees in it. You know, are we going to incur those costs of removing private property trees? And unlikely that the private property guy would want us to go in there and remove those trees. The Buffalo Jump a number of years ago, that's crossing 42 for CN. Same thing there. Like the trees are a long ways away on the Hutterite property, but it was not recommended for safe stopping distance, so that's why stop signs were installed there too, so.
And 30-0 is a bad one, heading east
Yeah.
for the liners and whatnot else. That's the hill I'm telling you. The
Oh,
pole.
yeah.
They have to stop there, and then they got to stop another
Yeah,
up at the old 21, you know.
Yeah.
So that's a tough area for semis, but
yeah,
just bring it to your attention.
okay.
All righty. Councillor Christie.
Because we're a bit off topic, the speed limit area by the Huxley Colony, if I'm going east, I gotta go 50, but if I'm going west, I can go full speed.
So again, that's not a speed limit. That's a yellow sign, I do believe, right? So it's a speed advisory. It's just advising the traffic that that there's a crossing up ahead that you can't really see to the south coming off that hill. And now with the recent build of the Hutterites building a new barn on that side of the world, they're going back and forth. So again, it's not a speed reduction, it's a speed advisory. So yellow signs are advisories that, you know, there is something ahead. We advise you to slow down. It's similar to, you know, going down through any of the coulees. You know, it's 80 up top, but it's this advisory that this curve can make this, and that advisory is just made for all traffic to put up, rather than make it a mandatory speed reduction. But I'll talk to our sign guy and just get a look at that, because you can see, you know, heading east, or heading west, you can see the hill a lot better than you can from heading east.
But the traffic coming from the south, from the new barn, is in behind that hill and trees where they can pop out of there pretty easy.
Yeah.
Like the main road is visible, but that intersection's still blind from the south pretty well.
Okay.
If a vehicle's right there, so.
We'll have our sign guy have a look at that and see what we can do there.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Buchert. Okay, our next agenda item is Policy 5-2, Development Agreement Requirements Policy. Welcome, Ms. Hazelton.
Good morning, Council. We've got a policy that we've brought to you a couple times, and I think we've done all the recommendations. We've incorporated those into the new policy. So this is regarding development agreements, and they may be a requirement of an applicant or developer as per the Municipal Government Act, specifically when an applicant is required to upgrade or construct any infrastructure that will be transferred to the county once complete. Typically, the agreements themselves are a function of administration. However, currently they are being brought to council for consideration. This policy allows administration to draft and execute these agreements in a consistent manner which clarifies the process for all applicants and developers. Since this policy will have council oversight, it will not be essential for administration to bring the agreements to council in the future. This also ensures that the same rules apply to all developers, whether local or otherwise. Since Kneehill County does not currently have a policy specifically related to development agreements, this has been drafted following council discussions. Administration has incorporated comments received in the May 25th council meeting and the June 22nd committee of the whole meeting. In discussion with the Director of Transportation, it's recommended that this policy does not apply to upgrades done as a Schedule A road, and those are the 5.3 meter top currently, unless that policy changes, dead-end single residential farm access only. No security would be taken from applicants doing these updates. However, they would be required to pay for the engineering review, which would flag the potential for federal or provincial approval requirements. It is also recommended that these road upgrades do not require an engineer. Roads that fall under Schedule B through E would require engineering. These applicants would be required to enter into development agreement with the county, and security would be required. The policy has been revised to reflect this change. This policy would also apply to developers wanting to run a water line or add a waste treatment facility with the expectation that the municipality would take it over at some point. The security required would be based on the level of risk that council is comfortable with if the developer does not complete the construction as required. Administration has proposed in this policy a graduated scale for the percentage required for security, as the risk level would be considerably lower for a small project versus a large project. Administration has also included a clause allowing a developer to request a portion of the security if the project has progressed through critical stages. It should be noted that any deficiencies in infrastructure must be addressed before a final acceptance certificate is signed off by our municipal engineer and the transfer is made to the municipality. So we're just looking for approval of this policy.
What are council's wishes? Councillor Penner.
I'd make the motion that council approve policy 5-2, development agreement requirements, policy as presented.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a motion before us to approve policy 5-2 as presented. Is there any discussion to that motion? Seeing not, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Okay, 5.1.2, road naming request.
So
Welcome back, Ms. Hazelton.
Yeah, we've received our first request to name a service road by one of the residents in the Twin Creek Estates Country Residential Development. So in order to ensure consistency with these requests, the county has drafted and approved the naming of county roads policy on March 23rd, 2021. Council is the approving authority for any proposed road names. This road is not part of the township range road grid and is currently unnamed. And there is some confusion regarding these lots since they are accessed by an unnamed service road, but their current address notes Highway 806. It has been difficult for some services or parcels as such to find them. The proposed name has been circulated to internal county departments as well as impacted adjacent landowners for comment. It has also been advertised in the Three Hills Capital for 2 weeks, and to date we've received no concerns. So we did include a site in there so that you see exactly, so it's the country residential south of Linden, and it would be the service road, and the request is to name that Twin Creek Close.
So what we will do is put up a decal on the rural address signs to reflect that,
Yep.
but just the ones that there's actually a residence on?
Yeah, right now there would be 2 and residents,
Yeah,
and then the road sign we would do as well.
okay. What's council's wishes here? Councilor Christie,
I'll make the motion to move to approve the Twin Creek Close as the name of the service road into Twin Creek Estates.
all right, we have a motion before us to approve the name Twin Creek Close for the service road that goes into Twin Creek Estates. Is there any discussion to that motion? Seeing as not, we'll call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thanks, Barb. Just booting right along here. Next agenda item, 8.1, letter of support for Central Alberta Child Advocacy Center. Mr. Hogan. Taking this, I presume?
Yes, so thank you, Mr. Reeve, through you to members of council. This is this RFD is in response to a request that we've received from the town of Sylvan Lake. The town of Sylvan Lake is advocating the provincial government for additional funds for the establishment or the expansion of a child and youth advocacy center. So these operations exist in different areas of the province, and they deal with, as the name implies, they deal with youth, particularly youth that have been victims of crime. And so there is, as I said, that's their function. And the town of Sylvan Lake, in attempting to lobby the government, is looking for others to join them and send a letter of support. There's no financial impact to the county for this. And as per the letter of support policy, this is before you for you to give administration direction to send or not send a letter, whatever council's wish is.
Well, what do we want to do with this? Deputy Reeve McGee.
I strongly believe in this type of proactive action that communities can do, so therefore I'd like to make the motion that council direct administration to supply a letter of support for the Central Alberta Child Advocacy Centre on their integrated building project on Red Deer College campus.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion. And that's up on screen. Is there any discussion to that motion? Seeing as not, call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. 8.2, pandemic operations update. Mr. Hogan.
Again, through you, Mr. Reeve, to yourself and the members of council. Earlier in the pandemic, administration provided council with an update to some of the functions that we had going on within the organization during COVID. As council's aware, even though the county office was closed as per provincial guidelines, we did maintain operations. We did continue to provide services. We transitioned a number of those services into an online format and able to continue to facilitate them. And ones that we couldn't, we found other ways to safely do those operations. So I'm thinking of things like strychnine sales and the like. We did, it's been a while since we provided council an update of this nature, so we thought it would be good to provide you with this information and to basically call it bragging or show a light on some of the things that we've been doing while the pandemic has gone on. So organizationally, like I said, we've been able to maintain our level of operations. That hasn't been easy in some cases. It's been challenging in many cases, not being able to deal, necessarily face to face with a lot of the public. But we did go through, and as we're coming to, I don't want to say the end of COVID, but as we're coming to the end of restrictions and looking at the reopening on July 1st, at which point the county will be fully open to the public and walk-in traffic as per the previous report that we made to council. We wanted to take this opportunity to show council some of the work that we've been doing behind the scenes, or we've been doing during the pandemic. So I'm not going to go through the RFD and read every single line of it, but the information is there for you.
Well, we have had the opportunity to look at this.
Mr. Reed?
Yes,
I'd just
Councillor
like to
Penner.
say thanks to Mike and the staff for putting this together. There's some areas that a person really didn't think about that you had highlighted on here, so thank you very much for putting this together.
A lot of information there. Councillor Penner.
In saying that, and hopefully things change really quickly here and we're able to, July 1st, to move on, that I'd like to make the motion that council accept the pandemic operations update for information as presented.
Thank you. We have a motion to accept as information as presented. Is there any discussion to that motion? Seeing not, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. 8.3, Dr. R&R Committee Terms of Reference. Mr. Hogan.
This item that's before you, Mr. Reeve and Council, is the continuation of an item that was before you at the last council meeting. Knowing that, or seeing the discussion that was likely to take place, council referred that discussion to the Committee of the Whole. As council is aware, last week at the Committee of the Whole meeting, you went through this questionnaire and provided the responses to it. So administration has hopefully captured those responses in the spirit in which council made them, and have brought that back to you at this meeting for council's formal endorsement of the responses. If council gives that formal endorsement, then we will forward these to the Kneehill Regional Partnership for their consideration in preparing an updated draft terms of reference.
Okay, what are council's wishes? We did spend a fair amount of time at our Committee of the Whole meeting, and we did come up with some answers to the questions, so kudos to the group. As tough as it was. Councillor Christie.
I'll make the motion to direct administration to return the completed questionnaire number 2 to the Kneehill Regional Partnership as presented. And we definitely spent a lot of time on that, so thank you.
Okay, we have a motion before us to return the completed questionnaire as presented. Is there any discussion to that motion? Councillor Keever.
I know this is just a reference thing, but how do we, what would you say, gauge whether we've ever had any success with this whole program? It's gone on for a lot of years and we've never been full yet. So is there any guarantee we're going to get any results out of this thing?
And who are you directing that to? The universe. Well, I mean, there's more and more doctors coming in, so don't know if it's expressly because of the Dr. R&R, but that being said, it is working, so.
Through you, Mr. Reeve, I would echo that. There's never going to be a guarantee that we're always full. So we're not going to be able to. There's a number of factors that tie into the staffing, not the least of which is what the doctors have going on in their personal lives. So there's no guarantee that we'll ever be full, but I think at times we have seen success in this program, and I do believe currently that there's some success on the horizon as well in terms of what the committee is doing. So we can't guarantee that we'll ever be full, but I think there has been some wins that this committee has generated for the community.
I would agree. Deputy Reeve McGee.
I also like to add to that, that as our representative, as I am the representative to the regional partnership group, I think the fact that we are rethinking this and looking through it, and all municipalities were eager to do that, is an indicator that they've seen enough success that they want this to continue. So I call that as proof that this is working, is that every community said, yes, let's alter this so it can continue to work even better.
Is there any more discussion to the terms of reference? If not, I will call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Our next agenda item was an addition, 8.4, Capstone. Would you like to speak to that? Councillor King.
Certainly, thank you, Mr. Reeve. I guess the reason I have raised this particular concern today is in the presentation that Capstone made to us as council, they talked about the fact that they have a desire to be a good corporate citizen in our area, and that they had a desire to consult, talk with, interact with the people affected immediately by the project. And as such, my understanding from talking to a number of people around that project, as well as you read the letters that we've received regarding the matter in front of the county at this point in time, is a lot of people don't feel they're being talked to. And so what I would like council to consider is perhaps as council writing a letter to Capstone asking them to make a greater effort as far as their public consultation and interaction with the people affected. And it may not bring any result, but I hear on one hand them say that they would really like to be involved and in conversation with people. And on the other hand, I hear the people who are most affected by the development saying that that's not happening. And so I guess my request of council would be is if you would consider authorizing administration to write a letter just requesting that they involve themselves more fully in a consultation process with the residents of Kneehill County. So that's my input on it. So if council has any comments, I'd sure be interested in hearing those.
Councillor Christie.
I fully agree. One of my concerns when I asked about raising the panels and using cattle to graze, they said, well, that's pretty expensive, but they didn't elaborate on what their solution might be. Like they kind of skirted what their project goal was going to be at the end of the day for forage control. And that should have been the door was open, tell me what you're going to do. And that didn't happen. So it kind of bothers me that in a big business like that, they have something planned, but they didn't tell us what was going on.
Mr. Reed?
Yes, Councillor Penner.
I think it's a great idea. Go ahead. The question I asked to them was, to the three of them, have you been to the site? Have you been to this area? And they had not, but of course, of COVID was limiting them. The field staff from the previous were who they were working with, and I think it's very important that the main people actually know where we are and what's going on, not just present to us from downtown Toronto or wherever. So.
Well, currently the AUC has a notification range of a half a mile. I think it's 800 meters from the site. It's really unfortunate that that is that small. I know we as the county have a larger notification area, but it would be nice for them to get out some more information. I'd be fully supportive of of the motion? Is that how you would like that motion to read, Councillor King?
Mr. Reeve, I guess, there's a lot of people who have questions, and if Capstone decided that they just were going to talk to the people within the required zone, they're really not addressing a lot of the concerns. And there's a lot of questions that have come both to me as a councillor and to us as council from our residents, indicating that there's a real big lack of information, and a lot of concern, of course, is raised because of that. And I can think of other developments that have happened within Kneehill County where we had similar situations, and the corporation says we are going to do this, and yet the residents feel they're being ignored. And so if we send this letter, make this request, hopefully the direction to our administration would be to encourage them to widen that consultation, because if they're only going to do the 800 meters, that's not adequate. And even with our own notification, a lot of people don't feel that's adequate. And so I guess as long as administration understands that the direction we're giving is that we would like them to do some kind of public consultation process that would allow people who feel they are affected or feel directly affected by this or have concerns, that they would have an opportunity to have those concerns responded to. I know it will not be an easy process, but I think it would be a productive process for Capstone to engage in. So as long as the understanding is that we're looking for that sort of a public consultative process, and they're not obligated to do this in any way, shape, or form, but I think it's reasonable for us to make the request. So if we could just, I see, thank you.
We'll wait for that motion to come up on screen. Or maybe it's there already. Is that how you'd like that motion to read, Councillor King? Deputy Reeve McGee.
I'd like to suggest a friendly amendment, consultation to the residents beyond, significantly beyond the AUC requirements.
Rather than say that, why couldn't we just say engage in a public consultation process with residents of Kneehill County?
Oh, excellent, yeah.
And take out the affected by the Kneehill solar program. Because people who feel they would like to have input are not necessarily just the ones that by definition would be defined as affected by the project. And really all I'm asking them to do is to engage with the public and to respond to the inquiries that people have. And you and I all know that there's lots of questions being asked. Very few of them are being answered. So I think the way it's written right now, I think I prefer that. Council's agreement.
Okay, I will read out the motion. Councillor King moved that council direct administration to draft a letter to Capstone Limited to encourage them to engage in a public consultation process with the residents of Kneehill County. Is there any discussion to that motion? Capstone Infrastructure Limited. Okay, yes, Councillor King.
I guess I would just have a question for Mr. Hogan. Are we clear enough in our intent?
I believe so, yes. We've got enough there to draft a letter and request Capstone engage in some sort of additional consultation, so yes.
Okay, if there's no more discussion to that motion, Councillor Kiever.
I kind of have to agree with Deputy Reeve McGee in that Capstone are probably thinking that they have address this issue with Kneehill residents by being here in our council chamber. I think they should be told, that minimum of mile or 2 miles around the project should be definitely contacted.
That's an AUC condition. That's not, I mean, they have to work within the parameters of the AUC process. So if you want to change that,
Yeah, that's
not
tough,
our-
but,
that's
but
not
I
our-
think this, is kind of letting them off the hook a little bit, they probably feel that they have contacted enough people in the Kneehill County
Well,
over the project.
We're just kind of asking them to do one more consultation, or whatever it takes, 1 or 2 more consultative sessions, and give the residents of Kneehill County the ability to ask questions and get answers. Whether we can't force them to do it, but if they feel that that would be something that would be, that they could be able to do, then that would be great. I think it'd be great for our residents. Yes, Councillor King.
Just one last comment. Really, this is more as council just asking a potential corporate citizen of our county to talk to the other residents who call this place home, and just to get an understanding of the concerns that are there and to respond to those concerns. And whether they choose to do this or not, I think that it's important that we as council say that we see this process as important and necessary to what they're thinking of doing. And so that's what I hope the messaging that they'll get from us will be, is that we feel this is important, we feel that our residents need to be heard, and we would like to see them engage in this process.
Okay, is there any more discussion to this motion? Councillor Christie.
I guess my comment would be that Capstone's now the third owner. I want to know where they're at compared to the first owner. What's evolved both on technology and on their corporate policies? Are they the same, or what's their long-term goals? I was thinking about my own business. In 10 years, I can pretty much tell you what we're going to be doing. With them, I don't know if they'll still be here. So that I'd like to see a long-term business plan of why do you want to be involved in this project, and how are you going to make it successful, is the answers that I haven't got from them.
Councillor King.
I said last comment, and I'm not holding to that. I guess as much information as we would like to have and our residents would like to have, the only way that information will be available to us is if Capstone were willing to share that information. And I'm hoping that with our encouragement, they might be willing to just do more of that conversation with people and help them understand exactly what they're thinking of doing and what their long-term plans are and what this project will look like in reality when it's on the ground. That's my hope. So.
All right. We have a motion before us. Is there any more discussion to that motion? Seeing as not, I will call the question. All those in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. I really hope that they could push ahead with the consultative process. Our next agenda item, council and committee reports. We've pre-circulated the committee of the whole of May the 18th. I'm sure everyone's had the opportunity to look through that. Councillor Penner, you wanted to update on Drumheller solid waste.
Yeah, and you will receive the minutes, but it seems like they take a little while to get them to us. So we had a meeting last week, and I'll just highlight a couple of the main areas. The household hazardous waste program. This was to be the final year because Swan Hills wasn't taking it for free. There's a cost to it. What we're proposing, what we're hoping for is we're still going to accept the product. We're just hoping that there's a little bridge gap of funding for the transportation of it to get it to there to help out. But in saying all this, Clean Farms, and it's through them, that they will continue to accept ag products. The Drumheller Solid Waste will not accept any ag products, will accept everything else. So, and I guess this has been going on for a little while. They have a 3-year cycle. 1 year it's Red Deer North, then south, and the 3rd year there is no collection. And, but when it comes to the ag chemical, the ag fieldman should have got literature, which we will follow up with them at our meeting, on the abandoned orphan chemical program. So there is a program out there already, I guess, but we didn't know a lot about it, so we're to ask our own fieldmen a little more about it. But right now you can tell the ratepayers in your area that if they have agricultural chemical, they take it back to their retailer, and Clean Farms will be the ones dealing with it. What we've learned is there's a lot of stuff that gets handed in on the household hazardous waste with shampoos and that kind of stuff, and that stuff can actually all go in the landfill. But the glues and that can't, but what happens is once we harden the glues, take the lid off them and harden them, then they can go in the landfills. There's been a lot of education going on with our landfill staff on what we can and can't put into the landfill from these hazardous waste roundups. What does the next? We had a big discussion on the closure and post-closures. Currently, we take $3.73, I believe it is, a ton, and put it into the reserve. This jumps around a lot with what it's going to cost us to close the landfill, and they don't understand that we have 3 cells, and we're not waiting till the end to close the first cell. We close the cells as we're going. So the formula that the provincial government has doesn't work 100% with our operation because we have 3 cells. So they are working with them. When it comes to recycling, number 2 plastics, and we're trying to encourage people to recycle number 2 plastics and cardboard. There's good money in that. The others we're subsidizing a little bit, or we're bailing them and storing them for now. So if people could recycle their number 2s, because there is a shortage of number 2 plastics, whether they're colored or clear, and cardboard. We'd like to encourage the agricultural industry, the farmers, to, and I know a lot don't use jugs anymore, but there's still a lot out there, to recycle the clean boxes, flatten them and take them to the recycling bins. As long as they're clean, they can be recycled. And it's not sure if a lot of people realize, but the content in a lot of cardboard packaging, it's a very high content, has to be of recycled cardboard. So there is a shortage, and so we're still being paid to recycle cardboard. And the next meeting is our annual meeting on August 19th. Please recycle.
Okay. Any questions for Councillor Penner?
The reason I say please recycle is it keeps our per cap down. If we can make money on the recycling side, it helps offset the landfill side. So we encourage people to recycle.
It's a win-win. Okay, well, if there's no other questions for Councillor Penner, we do have an update on Trochu housing. Anytime you want to go there, Mr. Councillor King.
Thank you, Mr. Reeve. I just wanted to notify council that, excuse me, the Trochu Housing Corp is having their public consultation meeting June the 28th, 6 p.m., and it's at the Baptist Church's Fellowship Center in Trochu. So just for your awareness, they have their meeting scheduled for the 28th of June.
I would assume there's going to be some COVID restrictions on that.
They acknowledge the fact that there is still some limitations, but that building has quite occupancy level, even at 1/3. And they're cognizant of the fact that they need to do this, but also the fact that summer's coming. And so in light of the fact that school's soon going to be out and so on, they've decided they're going to go forward. And so it's one of the things we asked them to do. It's one of the things they're being asked to do by municipal affairs as well. And so they are going ahead June 28th.
Is there a pre-registration process, do you know? Or you just attend?
I haven't heard any of that at this point, so I'm not aware that there is a pre-registration process. I think that their desire would be to have as many residents of the town there as possible. I did receive an invitation myself as a member on the board to be there, but beyond that, I don't know. I can ask the question though.
No, I don't know if it was relevant or not, but I just thought I'd bring that up. Okay, so that brings us to the end of our council and committee reports. Someone want to make a motion to receive for information as presented? Councillor Penner.
So moved.
All righty. Councillor Penner moved that council receive the council and committee reports as presented. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Our next agenda item is council follow-up action list. Councillor Kiever.
Are we sold out of our equipment down there that we're advertising for sale? Has it been all
The
bought?
Redland site?
Huh?
The Redland site?
Yeah.
No, we still have equipment for sale down there. So it's currently being advertised, but if you're interested, Councillor Kiever, we're willing to sell stuff.
Can we diversify and become a fertilizer plant? Okay, that dumb question, sorry I brought that up. Okay, what's council's wishes? Councillor King.
I'd make the motion that council receive for information the council follow-up action list.
Alrighty, we have a motion to receive for information as presented. Is there any discussion to that motion? Seeing as not, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. That brings us to the end of our open agenda. And we'll have a recess before we come back for the closed session. All righty, we are back in session. We have an item for closed session. Land pursuant to sections 17 and 24 of the FOIP Act. Would someone like to put us into closed session? Councillor Christie.
So moved.
Okay.